Do I look any different?
A little sweaty.
Do I look like Papa Phil?
The beard.
You have a lot of gray in it now. I think we should dye it.
If y'all think a little less salt may make me look less like my father.
Yeah.
Well, scenes from the new season of A&E's hit show Duck Dynasty. You may know the Robertson family pretty well from watching that show, but Willie Robertson shows a different dimension of his outdoor life as he traces the history of our great nation through fishing in his brand new book. Willie joins us from Newsmax, New York, to talk about that book, which is entitled The American Fisherman: How Our Nation's Anglers Founded, Fed, Financed, and Forever Shaped the USA. Willie, of course, is also the CEO of Duck Commander. And Willie, it's so good that you could take time to join us tonight here on Newsmax Prime. We really appreciate the chance to sit down with you.
My pleasure. It's great to be here.
Now, you start with the founding fishermen, Native Americans, and from there outline how fishing really gave us an economic advantage as a superpower. As you take a look at the history of fishing here on this continent and now in the US of A, why is the fishing industry so important to our economy?
Well, it is, and it always has been. And so what we did was we went back and basically went into the history of fishing and what it meant to this country. Now, history kind of sounds boring, so what we did was went and found some great stories, because there's some awesome stories throughout history, and we collected those stories really starting with the Native Americans and how they fished. And because a lot of people, when they came to this country, as we settled here, a lot of people didn't know how to fish. So I don't always make the assumption that everybody knows how to fish. So the Robertsons do. We grew up fishing, and so we had to learn this from the Native Americans, and it's very vital to our country. And so we go into Western expansion. We talk about the presidents. George Washington was actually a commercial fisherman. A lot of people don't realize that, but he was a very successful commercial fisherman. So as you move into the Revolutionary War, you know, when supplies were limited and food was limited, the fishing is actually what saved the day. And so the troops were able to eat fish and go all the way to the Civil War, and all throughout time, it's really been vital. And nowadays, a lot of people just fish kind of for funsies, but back then it was really for survival. And so it really built this country. The waterways and all these things were instrumental into fishing as we have it now. And now there's about 35 million fishermen, so way more fishermen than even hunters and anglers and golfers. So a lot of people fish in this country, and America's always been had great waterways and fishing, and so we just go back and explore that from then and all the way to now.
And you mentioned George Washington as a commercial fisherman. As you move through our history, a lot of presidents tried to relax by fishing. I'll never forget that picture of Herbert Hoover, almost in formal attire, and his waders out casting a line. Who do you think among the presidents was the most prolific fisherman?
Well, we write a lot about FDR, actually, and so he was a huge fisherman. And, you know, for him, at the time he was at in history, some of the hardest times in America. So if you think about the Great Depression, going into World War II, just some heavy stuff. And for him, he loved to get away and go fishing. And he would bring world leaders in. There's some photo in there, Winston Churchill, where they had this meeting around fishing. And so, you know, he being handicapped, it was a little tougher for him to get out. And he essentially used the United States Navy kind of as his Uber to get around the waterways. And I couldn't imagine a president today, you know, jumping on a warship and having them taken and fishing, but that's exactly what he did. The troops loved it, you know, because usually you have the President of the United States on their boat catching fish and telling stories. So he was one that stuck out. Eisenhower loved to fish, would take numerous fishing trips a year. So a lot of presidents did that, and loved to get away and try to escape, you know, from all the daily things, the pressures that go along with that job. Even us today, I mean, even that's what I love about it. I love to get out, and no cell phones, no anything, just get out on the water, be close to nature, something spiritual about it. You know, throughout the Bible, fish is mentioned, you know, some of the first ones that Jesus called were actually commercial fishermen. So because they kind of had they knew, they knew how to fish, and so he said, "I'll make you fishers of men." And so all the way back to the Bible. So all these areas are explored. There's a lot of presidents that did love to get out and fish.
Yeah, you mentioned the gospel story and becoming fishers of men. In a sense, you were a fisher for facts, assembling this book. And when you came away, is there one occurrence, one historical incident that is so surprising that it kind of left you flat-footed in doing the research for this book?
Well, there were a lot of stories that actually, I love the Lewis and Clark. I love how when they were heading out west to, this western expansion, they're going out, they quickly ran out of food, and lo and behold, they had to fish actually to survive. The Native Americans helped them along the way, giving them fish and providing them fish. They actually ate so much fish that they got sick of it, but it was able to carry them through the journey. And also in the Civil War, right there at the Battle of Five Forks, and this is right towards the end of the war, General Pickett, the Confederates, they had a little catch of fish, and so they kind of snuck off because they didn't want to share their fish. And they had a little fish fry together, and Sherman came in, won that battle, and 8 days later, Lee surrendered. So at a pivotal moment, even of the Civil War, there's the fish, and the temptation to eat fish and hide fish actually turned the war. So it's amazing, these stories that are out there that we collected and put together. And so those are a few, but there's a lot of stories in there that are remarkable.
From history back to the here and now, Willie, what kind of fisherman do you think Donald Trump might be?
Well, he'd probably be on a nice boat, that's for sure. I don't know how much he's fished in the past, but maybe we'll get a chance to go out with him, and he could probably, the Trump family, they can do a lot of things. So I know they hunt. I've hunted with the boys. They've been actually to my house, and we've hunted. So I don't know. We have to get them out on the water. You can learn a lot about people fishing, and we'll see how patient you are and how much you stay with it. So it can teach you a lot, and he may need to with the job he's got to do. So it's a lot of stress going on. So he may need to get away.
Now, as I recall, retracing the recent history of this campaign, your dad was a big Ted Cruz supporter, and if I'm not mistaken, you were with Donald Trump from the start. So when events moved along in this campaign, you didn't go to your daddy and say, "Hey, I told you so," did you?
Well, not in those words. I think the smirk that I had at the dinner table, I think it said enough. I'm respectful to my father, but he quickly came on board, and so it's definitely made for an interesting year for sure in the Robertson family. A lot of great discussions we've had at that dinner table about politics, and it all worked out. And so yeah, I kind of I was ahead of the game, at least in the family for sure.
Well, let's talk some about your show, Duck Dynasty. If I'm not mistaken, this is season 11. Now, are you used to having the cameras around, the pacing of all the production? What is that like for you and your kin folks doing this program?
It's kind of second nature by now. It's been over 5 years we've been filming the show, so we've done about 130 episodes. It's a lot of work, a lot of sitting around waiting for lights to come up and all that. So we're used to it. It's just amazing. I mean, it really says more to the fans who people continue to watch the show, and so it's like really high-end family videos, because I get to go back and look at my kids when they were younger as they grew up, and so we have all that captured, and so it's great. And we've been able to use this platform to do a lot of different things, like write books and do other things, and so yeah, it's kind of second nature now. But whenever the show's said and done, it'll be nice to be out and go out and do a little more fishing, so we'll have more time. But we also have a spin-off show called Going Cyril. My Uncle Si has his own show. It'll follow the Duck Dynasty show, and I'm on the show as well. I'm his, what he calls, sidekick, and so we are teaching my Uncle Si about the internet. He does not have a computer or a phone, and so the internet was fascinating to him, and it's a great family show, a lot of laughs, and it's a good show that we're coming out with, and we're excited about it.
So I'm just wondering, you got Uncle Si in the spinoff. Is there going to be a spinoff, Willie on the Water, with you doing a fishing show in the years to come?
I'm not sure. You know, when I go fishing, the thing I kind of like about fishing is that there's no cameras, and so it's nice just to get out and kind of take that time to be away. So I'll never say never, but there are some times when we like to just get out and just kind of get in our own worlds and be away from TV and the spotlight for a while.
And you may not take cameras when you go fishing, but you took pad and pen, or at least a word processor, and helped put together this brand new book, The American Fisherman, How Our Nation's Anglers Financed, founded, fed, financed, and forever shaped the U.S. of A. I kind of got my F's backwards there, Willie, but we really do appreciate your time. Willie Robertson, great to have you tonight on Newsmax Prime. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Nice talking to you, JD.
And we'll have more right after this.